Hello and welcome to the Evercade Retreat. My name is Joke and today I'm ranking the games from the Indie Heroes Collection Volume 2. I tend to be more forgiving when it comes to the Indie Heroes games. That's because most of these games are developed by hobbyists in their spare time. In at number 12 is Gelatinous Humanity Lost. It's a Game Boy game developed by the Retro Room. It's a Metroidvania. You play a blob that looks basically like a turd emoji except for when you're moving. Initially you can't even jump and it doesn't get off to a good start. You can scale walls and things and the movement and everything just feels a bit off. The whole game feels a bit janky and incomplete. However, if you can get past that awkward beginning, there is a much more ambitious game there. The thing is, it's a bit janky and I wouldn't say it's all that much fun, but I can appreciate what they were going for. Next at number 11 is Wreck Themselves Adventure for the NES. Developed by Native Games, it is an action adventure featuring top-down and side-scrolling action. My first impression was fairly favourable, although it's got quite simplistic graphics, it seemed it could be quite fun. However, I quickly realised the game design just isn't quite there. Although there's a sizable adventure, it wasn't really that much fun to play through. There's also a save bug on this one, so whenever you play the game, put start game, do not load last save, maybe make multiple saves just in case. I lost my progress halfway through and it really was a chore to play through it again. I didn't really have much fun with this one. Ranked at number 10 we have Yeah Yeah Beavis 2 for the NES, developed by Rigged Games, as in YouTuber John Riggs. It's an arcade style single screen platformer where you run around zapping enemies within a time limit. There are some pickups like bonus points and extra time, but you do the same thing on every single level. The graphics are distinct but a little bit ugly and garish. The music is jolly and the gameplay is rather repetitive. It's competent but not that exciting, hence it's quite low on the list. On the plus side, there are a lot of levels, if you can be bothered to play that much. Ninth on my ranking is Beer Slinger by Second Dimension Games. This is a bit like Root Beer Tapper or whatever it's called. You work a bar, you serve pints, and you do that for 7 days. If you make it that far. If you're too slow, you're going to get sacked and it's game over. And after 7 days, you win. And that's the only game mode, which is the problem with it and why it's low on the list, because there's not much to it. There is the core of a fun game here, it's just a shame there's not more game modes or something to make it more replayable. Number 8 on my ranking is Nessie the Robot by Daniel T Gaming. I bet you can't guess what format it's for. No, it's not a PlayStation 5. As you might be able to see, it's a fairly straightforward platforming game. It's got fairly charming but relatively simple graphics. The music's quite nice. There's 6 worlds to explore, various secrets, collectibles, there are some cutscenes. There's a few nice touches to it. It's also a little bit rough around the edges, but I believe it was the developer's first game. Not a bad little game, but it won't take you too long to beat. Although it might take you a bit longer to get the various secrets and things. Not bad, but not great. At number 7 in my ranking is Lunar Journey by Green Boy Games. As you can tell, it's a Game Boy game. I'm going to keep this short like the game itself. It's a charming puzzle adventure and you're better off experiencing it yourself. Play it, enjoy it, you'll do it once. I'd imagine I can't see anyone coming back to this one, but it's fine while it lasts. Number 6 on my ranking is Anguna Scourge of the Goblin King for the NES. Developed by Bite the Chili Productions, it's the sequel to Anguna Warriors of Virtue, which appeared on Indie Heroes Volume 1. It is a very similar game to that, however I do feel this one is improved. It's a Zelda-like game with a large overworld map, multiple dungeons, various power-ups and items to collect, and a levelling system. It may be Zelda at home, but I think it's quite a good one. Number 5 in my ranking is Nyx the Paradox Relic by Chronicler of Legend. It's a Metroidvania for the NES where you control Nyx, a bounty hunter, as she's going after pirates and she has to enter a sci-fi type facility to take them down. In true Metroidvania fashion, you have to explore the area to find new abilities, to access more areas, beat the bosses and generally do the usual Metroidvania type things. The graphics are quite nice, the music is genuinely good. It's a relatively short Metroidvania, but that means it doesn't outstay its welcome. The way the items and abilities are spaced out is handled well. I really enjoyed my time with it and was almost wanting more. Fourth in my ranking is the Cowlitz Gamers trilogy for the NES, developed by Lucascale. Surprisingly, there's 3 games here. The first, Cowlitz Gamers, is a simple single-screen platformer. You collect the gems on the level, you progress to the next one. It has very small sprites and you might not want to play it on the Super Pocket. The second Cowlitz Gamer game is largely the same, but with larger sprites, better graphics, more levels, and more fiendishly difficult levels as you get further into it. The third is essentially the lost levels to the second game and is more of the same. That might not sound like a glowing recommendation, but they're a lot of fun. Although they do seem very simple and you might think it's too basic at first, give it a try. Once you get into it, you'll soon get hooked. Number 3 on my list is Ira the Crow Maiden for the Mega Drive. Developed by Second Dimension Games, this fantasy adventure platformer has you controlling Ira as she battles bad guys, saves villagers and the entire planet, and comes home for a nice full English breakfast. Maybe. Levels are fairly straightforward left to right affairs for the most part. You have a sword, daggery type weapon, you get upgrades which give her a longer range and more power. You also have a crow which can help you, and you get other abilities as the game progresses. There's bosses to fight, there's a reasonable challenge, some nice graphics, decent music. All in all, it's a decent sized game that most people should enjoy. At least I did, so you should too, because, you know, reasons. All in all, it's a decent action platformer. Number 2 in my ranking is the Grunio Zerka trilogy. These are once again for the NES and they're developed by the same people who did the Cowlitz Gamers trilogy. Unlike those, this is 3 very different games. The first is very simple. You catch carrots falling from the sky and you have to match the colour of the carrots to that of your guinea pig's lips. It don't make much sense. The second is a platform puzzler where you have to place blocks so you can solve the levels and get to the exits. And the third is a top-down puzzler where you have to make your way to the exit and you have to collapse every platform on the way. The second and third games could easily have been games in their own right. I mean, they technically are, but they're collected together. I really enjoyed those 2, hence why this gets the second place ranking. And the number 1 game in my opinion is Tapeworm Disco Puzzle for the NES. Developed by Low Tech Games, who seem to have a thing for parasites, because they also made Flea on the Indie Heroes Collection 1. And anyway, it's a puzzle game where you control a tapeworm. It's not a tapeworm, it's a cassette tapeworm. It's a novel idea. The game is full of charm, silly humour, great music and devious puzzles. It's also got a multiplayer mode which I played through with one of my kids and we had a great time with it. It's an absolutely fantastic game. And easily the best in the collection. So that's every game from the Indie Heroes Collection Volume 2 ranked in order of preference. My preference obviously, yours may vary. Obviously it's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of quality, however I think the quantity helps offset that. And I think it's absolutely warranted here. Now you've got a few games that make it definitely worth the purchase, and the others, they're curiosity. You might like them, you might not. But I think it's cool that Evercade showcases these indie games, these amateur enthusiasts, and it's cool that they get to have their things put out into physical media. As someone who's dabbled in game development, if I ever complete a game, I'd love to have it appear on Evercade on one of these cartridges, even if it was to get ripped to shreds by people quitting and saying it's load of rubbish. Overall, I'd give it 7.5 out of 10. I think it's worth most people checking out. Tapeworm Disco Puzzle alone makes it worth it. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with a song, and I'll see you in the next video.
day by day in its own weird way. I got a tapeworm, oh yeah, living in there like I don't care, sharing all my meals. This is how it feels when a parasite has a disco party in my guts. My guts. In my guts. Doctors scratch their heads, tying me to beds. Can't get it to stop, making my heart drop. I got a tapeworm, oh yeah, living in there like I don't care, sharing all my meals. This is how it feels when a parasite has a disco party in my guts. My guts. Late night, sleepless nights, wishing it would go, but it keeps it tight, holding on to so. When a parasite has a disco party in my guts. My guts. Doctors scratch their heads, doctors scratch their heads. Disco party in my guts. Doctors scratch their heads, doctors scratch their heads, doctors scratch their heads. Disco party in my guts. I don't feel so good, it must be high and going